What's up, y'all? Let's dive headfirst into today's stories. I used to work part-time at a sandwich shop during college, about 9 to 10 years ago. The shop had a high turnover rate, and I was there the longest, so I basically learned everything in the store. One day we had a health inspector come in to evaluate the food safety, temperature readings, food storage, amongst other things. I had to slice the tomatoes for night shift, and the inspector took issue with the dirty slicer and asked if it had been cleaned first. I said yes. He asked if I used the scrubby thingy, I forget what it's called, it's like a wire scrub on a stick. I said no, you don't put your fingers near the blades, you just spray it off and dunk it in sanitizer. He chastised me, so I was like, okay, show me how to clean it properly then. If there was a way to do it right without getting hurt, then I was willing to learn. My coworker and I stood there and watched him jam the wire scrub between the blades and pull it back, and of course it got stuck. He shoved it forward again, jamming his knuckles into the blades. He started bleeding everywhere. My coworker had to shut himself in the walk-in freezer, he was laughing his butt off. I just looked at my manager trying to help this idiot inspector get a towel and whatnot and said yeah. I'm not cleaning the slicer like that. So freshman year of high school I was in the most hated teacher's math class, and because I was in the gifted program, there was a lot of malicious compliance, but my favorite example is 2 weeks before the midterm final. One of those kids, you know, the kind that doesn't care and always bullies their teachers but never gets in trouble, who also happened to be this teacher's least favorite student, was on his phone instead of working, as per usual. And this teacher was in an especially bad mood today, so she started yelling at this kid, calling him dumb, useless, stupid, etc., where the kid didn't care at all. She got fed up yelling at him, so she said, you know what? If you get a 100 on the final you can keep playing on your phone. Finals came around and not only did the kid get a 100 on the final, but so did 3/4 of our class, meaning we outperformed all of the other classes. The rest of the year consisted of everyone in that class playing on our phones. So me and my boyfriend moved in together early February. I work at home doing web design and coding while he worked Walmart. The house we are in has no dishwasher, so we always have to do dishes by hand. During that time we decided swapping who does dishes worked easiest. Every other sink full was me, then him, and back again. We'd reach a full sink about every 3 days. Despite our agreement, I always cleaned the pots and pans after I cooked dinner, feeling it was rude not to. I also made sure to put up dishes once they dried so he could do his set when he had time. Then he got a new job at a medicine packaging plant. Cool, more money and more time for me to watch my shows he dislikes. I noticed due to the new schedule he had, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. instead of 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., that he wasn't doing dishes as quickly and would often let it get overfilled on his turn. The first, let's say 4 times, I just would wash and rinse the stuff we needed and move on. But then he started complaining he always had more dishes to do than me. I reminded him not only do I rinse stuff we used for dinner, once done cooking I'd rinse plates or bowls if we had none left. He told me if there were no dishes there would be no problem. It still confuses me he said this. He then complained I had no reason not to do dishes more since I work at home. If I am not working I vacuum, mop, dust, take our dog out, and do laundry. He never does any of this outside of one dog walk before work. Annoyed after him telling me not to make excuses, I asked him what we should do. He said, I don't know. Maybe just clean your own dishes and I clean mine. Use less dishes too. So I complied right there. I picked 1 big plate, 1 small plate, 1 bowl, and 2 cups. I usually have water and a smoothie since I have vitamin deficiency, as well as 2 of each utensil, and proceeded to take them to the basement where my desktop setup is for work. Outside of pots and pans for making whatever else we eat, I use nothing but the dishes I grabbed and make sure to wash what I cook with upstairs and my personal dishes in the basement bathroom sink right after I eat. He on the other hand now still has a sink full of dishes which I know I didn't touch or use. I have even had to go find dishes around the house since he sometimes just leaves them in the bedroom or living room. To clarify, I started my compliance about 5 days ago at this point, so I wasn't shocked we had a full sink. This morning while I was making us omelets he noticed the now full sink and asked, why aren't you taking your turn? I looked to him innocently and asked, what are you talking about? You said we should clean our own dishes. He looked annoyed and said, it's my day off. I shouldn't have to do this. I stared and shrugged as I made us eggs. Don't make excuses. I do mine just fine. He let out a annoyed sound and went to walk the dog. By the time he got back I had just plated food. I went to the sink, added soap to the egg pan and scrubbed it. Then set it to dry. I grabbed my food heading to the basement and he went, "Really? You are just gonna leave the rest? You could have done one or two." I simply turned to him and shrugged again, saying, "I did mine, you do yours." As I headed downstairs I couldn't help but say, "Isn't it great only doing our own dishes?" He has been upstairs almost 20 minutes just doing the full sink. I feel petty but pray this means he will actually clean after himself and not leave it to me anymore. This was many years ago when I was in high school, but it is still one of my proudest academic coups. Backstory: I was a gifted kid in an IB, International Baccalaureate, program. I also had undiagnosed ADHD and tested well, but didn't consistently complete homework, especially if it was busy work. I'm in IB history class my sophomore year. We get assigned pages upon pages of reading and notes for homework every night, and the notes are the most tedious bull excretion. There's a really specific format we have to use that involves splitting the page in half, writing a fact from the text on one side, a couple sentences of analysis of that fact on the other, and 2 to 3 sentences summarizing everything you've written at the bottom of the page. We also had quotas for how many pages of notes we had to do. I don't remember the exact ratio because I never ever hit it, but it was like a 40-page reading needed 20 pages of notes. They took forever. There often weren't actually enough key facts to analyze, and everyone beast the copulate out of them to hit their page count. They were also the first thing on the chopping block if we had too much homework, which we always did. And we would get graded down for not hitting quota, not following format, or poor quality content. Everyone hated them with a passion, especially me. Our teacher got sick of people BSing their notes, harloting about their notes, or just not turning them in at all, which happened more often than not. So she announced at the beginning of the new term that anyone who missed a notes assignment would get an incomplete instead of a 0, so it wouldn't affect your grade, and if you did well on the final, any missing assignments would be waived. But if we didn't do well, they would become 0s and our grade would drop. She intended this to just be temporary grace for the good students so they could afford to miss an assignment here and there and not ruin their GPA. But she was not prepared for the unintended consequences I was about to inflict. This announcement was absolute music to my ears. You see, not only were our notes busy work, they were pointless busy work because all the material from the reading would be covered on the PowerPoint in class the next day. So I would always just pay attention and take notes in class, only do some of my homework, ace the final because I had still learned the material, and because homework was only 35% of the overall grade, I'd still usually scrape a B in the class, which was fine by me. So naturally, when I hear we don't have to do notes, I accept the procreate out of that challenge. I decided right then and there that I would be doing no history homework for the entire term, and basked in my newfound liberation from hours of bullcrap. About halfway through the term, my teacher comes up to me and the convo goes something like this: "Teacher," Valley girl voice, she was only 24 and very immature, "Ginger, I noticed you haven't turned in any notes at all yet this term." I'm like, kinda concerned about that. Me, well, you said if we did well on the final we would get our notes waived. Teacher, well, I mean, yeah, but if you don't do well you're going to lose a huge chunk of your grade. Me, okay, and? Teacher, bothered, I mean, you should really turn in some notes so that doesn't happen. Me, it's okay, I'm good. Teacher, really bothered, are you seriously planning on just not doing any notes all term? Me, yep. Because they'll be waived anyway when I do well on the final. Teacher, getting condescending, okay, well don't blame me when your grade goes down. Me, yeah, can I get back to work now? I proceed to stick to my word and not do any notes assignments all term. Final comes around, it's our typical format. 120 minutes to write 2 essays chosen from 3 prompts. I could have crushed any of them, but I picked the 2 easiest for me and got writing. Finished the first one about Columbus's problematic historiography and realized it only filled 1 piece of notebook paper front and back, single-spaced. But I had said everything I needed to fulfill the prompt. Cool, on to the next one. Don't remember the topic, but it too was clear and concise, taking up only a sheet and a half. I was the first one done, not unusual for me. I often hyper-focused on essay tests, and walked up to turn it in. Teacher thought I had a question. I informed her I was done. Her eyebrows shot through the roof, she asked if I was sure. I said yes, left class, and went and enjoyed my early lunch. It's next week, and we get our graded finals back. She stiffly marches up to my desk and slams my test papers down. The longer essay got a 98. The page-long one about Columbus got 100. She muttered something sarcastic about, well, I guess that little gamble paid off for you, huh? Yep, just like I said it would, says I. She was fuming as she walked away. She had been so hoping to catch me in a big backside gotcha, but as it was, I ended up getting the highest score in the class. She had to waive every single notes assignment, and I ended up with an A for the term. What did you think? What would you have done differently? Share your opinions in the comments. And if you enjoyed the stories, slap that like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.